Hi, Anant here with NetSurian, and one more update. This is the fourth one on the Log4j version 2 vulnerability, also known as Log4 shell. In the previous update, we had described a second vulnerability, and now there's a third one, or at least yet another fix. So as you recall, Log4j is that popular open source Java-based logging framework that's built into a lot of different applications. And is used to log data. So the first one was on December 9th, and we described this. This is 44228, and this allowed remote code execution, was scored 10. A couple of days later, there was 45056. Even though they released 2.15 in order to solve the previous one, it turned out that it was incomplete in certain non-default configurations. This was originally assigned a CVSS score of 3.7 and then jumped to 9.0 a couple of days later. Well, one more vulnerability, this time 45105, has been disclosed. Turns out that the fix in 2.16 doesn't really prevent uncontrolled recursion from self-referential lookups. And this can result in denial of service. And from the get-go, this has a CVSS score of 7.5. So Log4j library 2.15, 16, and now 17 is the current fix, and that's something to pay attention to if you're updating. So what exactly is 45105? Turns out that in spite of the fact that JNDI lookups can be fully disabled, by setting no lookups equals true, as we described in earlier versions. And in 2.16, these were removed completely. It turns out that there are something called self-referential lookups, and there are patterns in the code where this can get triggered even though you have JNDI lookups disabled. More specifically, it's a little obscure. You could use a non-default pattern layout with a context lookup. The example is cited, $CTX : login ID. And if this is true and the attackers have control over the threat context map, then they can still craft malicious data input, which contains this recursive lookup. And ultimately, this will result in a stack overflow, which will terminate the process, which means that this is really a denial of service. So to fix this, the Apache folks have released 2.17. And this only allows lookup strings in configuration to expand recursively. Anything else and only the top level lookup will be resolved, not any nested lookups. And this will prevent a denial of service. You could, of course, avoid all this by simply removing the JNDI class completely, as we had discussed before. So previously, the advice was just simply set Log4j format message no lookups to true if it's greater than 2.10, and this will help you. If you can't, in fact, upgrade Log4j, which is not so easy, but turns out that that's really not enough. 2.16 was provided, which kind of took care of this, by removing JNDI log lookups. But now you should try for 2.17. So your two choices: completely remove the JNDI lookup class from the Log4j core jar, or if you have the luxury of getting a updated version 2.17 of Log4j and/or your application supports it, you could, of course, upgrade to this version. But this is going to be a hard slog and difficult for most people. So most likely the previous one is what you can do on an emergency basis without breaking functionality. Our previous guidance on vulnerability of MTP, NetSurian's managed threat protection products and services, including our CXD, does not change. We do not use the Log4j library, and no component that we are using is impacted by this vulnerability, even with this latest disclosure. Yes, it is true. You will find Log4j core 2.11 if you scan the file system where Event Tracker is installed. But this is, even though vulnerable, it is not exploitable, doesn't require any urgent remediation. Elastic says it. This is part of Elastic 7, which is included in Event Tracker version 9.3. This is because Elastic 7 uses the Java Security Manager, and it's not susceptible to this RCE, remote code execution vulnerability. In any case, we're bound to 127.0.0.1, that is to say localhost only, and you cannot get to this Elasticsearch instance from another machine, much less the Big I internet. And aside of taking Elastic's word for it, we have tested and confirmed the statement. Stay tuned. It looks like this vulnerability is going to take us for a ride before it's done with us. Hope you're having a good day.